Welcome back to Friday Focus. So we had started the chapter Life Process, and last lesson we had learned about what life processes are, and we had introduced ourselves to around 2 to 3 life processes, right? We had a brief introduction about nutrition, about respiration, and today we'll be moving into the first life and excretion. Yeah. So today we'll start with the first life process in the series, that is nutrition. We'll learn why it is needed. Then we'll learn how organisms are classified based on the mode of nutrition. And we'll start with the first mode of nutrition, that is autotrophic nutrition. So we'll be covering sections 6.2 and 6.2.1 from the NCERT textbook for class 10. Let's revise what we learned in the last class. So about nutrition. So the life processes or the maintenance processes of life require energy to be inside the organism. And this energy, the organism derives it from outside source, that is food. So there must be a process through which the energy in source, which is outside of the organism, is transferred into the organism, and this mode of transfer, that process is called as nutrition, right? So what is nutrition? The process by which organisms transfer the energy source present outside its body, that is food, into itself is called nutrition, right? So this nutrition that organisms derive from outside is used for a variety of purposes. So one among that is to derive energy, and this energy that we get from our nutrition is used for doing work as well as for the maintenance and repair of the body, right? Now another way nutrition is used by organism is for growth and development. That means this nutrition provides certain raw materials that can be used for building up the body and so that it grows and it develops, right? So these are the uses of nutrition for the organism, and this nutrition is nothing but the food that we eat, right? Or food that every organism eats or takes in. Now, depending upon the mode of nutrition, that means depending upon how organisms obtain their food, they are divided as autotrophs and heterotrophs. Auto, that is self, right? So, autotrophs obtain energy and simple food materials from inorganic sources in the form of carbon dioxide and water. That means they satisfy their energy and those raw materials that we spoke about in the last slide, right? The raw materials needed for growth and development and energy. For these two purposes, autotrophs use inorganic sources, that is carbon dioxide and water, right? Whereas heterotrophs, they obtain energy and complex food materials from plants or animals, and hence they have to break them down into simpler ones before use. We had learned in the last lesson, right, that organisms need to convert all the variety of food that organisms take in, they have to convert into a uniform source so that the body can use it more easily, right? So this conversion need to be done mainly in heterotrophs because their food materials are more complex and they obtain it from plants or animals, right? So in this lesson, we'll be looking more deeper into autotrophic nutrition. So what is it again? Let's just brush up what we just learned and put it all together. So autotrophic nutrition is a mode of nutrition in which organisms fulfill their carbon and energy requirements from inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water. And what is the process that they use for doing this? That is by photosynthesis. So let's read that again. Autotrophic nutrition is the mode of nutrition in which organisms fulfill their carbon and energy requirements from inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water by photosynthesis. Photo, light. Synthesis, formation. Okay, so in the presence of light, food is formed. That's what is photosynthesis in, its literal meaning. So let's learn in more detail what photosynthesis is. It's the process by which autotrophs, we just said right now. Okay, autotrophs take in what do they take in? Carbon dioxide and water. We discussed that also in the last point, right? So the process by which autotrophs take in carbon dioxide and water, which are then converted into carbohydrates. And how is it done? In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Sunlight provides the light energy, and chlorophyll is the pigment that captures the sunlight or light energy and converts it into, helps plants to convert it into chemical energy, right? And this chlorophyll pigment, remember where it is present inside the cell? Inside the chloroplasts, right? Last it's called chloroplasts. Alright, so what are the key points that you need to remember? It's underlined over here, okay? So let's just remember the keywords in autotrophic nutrition. Carbon and energy requirements is fulfilled by organisms from inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water. And what is the process they use? Photosynthesis, right? And what is photosynthesis? Firstly, autotrophs. It happens in autotrophs. Secondly, what do they take in? Carbon dioxide and water. Thirdly, what do they convert it into? They convert it into carbohydrates, mainly glucose. How do they do it? In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, right? And sunlight is the light, sunlight, they use its light energy to convert it into chemical energy. And where is chlorophyll? What is chlorophyll? It's the pigment that captures the sunlight. And where is it present? In chloroplasts, right? One more important thing that we must remember is that plants store the extra carbohydrates. That means whatever carbohydrate is remaining and the plant doesn't need at that time, that much carbohydrates are stored in the form of starch. And what is the starch? Basically, what does it mean to the plants? It is nothing but the internal energy reserve. What do you mean by reserve? Basically, reserve, reservoir, all that is it refers to something that we save, that we can use it in the future, right? So starch is nothing but form in which plants store extra carbohydrates so that they can use it for future use. In the future, if by any chance the plant is not able to do photosynthesis, then the plant uses these carbohydrates to survive. Okay, so let us just get our perspectives right. Okay, so first of all, we need to know that we said that chlorophyll plays a major role in photosynthesis. So we also need to remember that chlorophyll is present inside chloroplasts, and all this is mainly present in leaves. Okay, mostly present in leaves. So if you take a cross section of the leaf, that is a small thin section of the leaf, the way it is shown in the picture, in the first picture, that way if you take a cross section, you'll get to see something like the second picture under the microscope. Okay, so in that you can see that in between the upper and lower epidermis there are mesophyll cells. It's inside these mesophyll cells that chloroplasts are found mostly, and therefore chlorophyll also present mostly in those cells, right? So I have just taken one cell from that and magnified it in the form of a diagram to show you what exactly happens to the carbon dioxide and water that plants take in through these cells. Okay, so in the presence of sunlight, plants take in carbon dioxide and water and convert it into glucose and oxygen. If you follow the arrows, you can see carbon dioxide and water is converted into glucose and oxygen with the help of sunlight and chlorophyll, right? Now, some of this glucose is used for growth. The rest of the glucose is used for respiration. Same goes with oxygen. Some of it is used for respiration and the rest is released into the atmosphere. So this is the basic thing that is happening, like the broader picture of what happens to carbon dioxide and water that the plant takes in is given here. Now let's get the word equation for photosynthesis. Okay, so we have learned that the plant takes in carbon dioxide and water. So carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives out glucose and oxygen, right? Now photosynthesis, if we write it as a chemical equation, this is what we get. The basic chemical equation is this. Carbon dioxide plus water gives rise to C6H12O6 is nothing but glucose. Okay, formula for glucose. And oxygen. Now clearly this equation is not balanced. So this is the reactant side and this is the product side. Now here you can see clearly that the equation is not balanced, right? In the reactant side there is just one carbon atom, whereas in the product side there are 6 carbon atoms. It's almost the same story in case of hydrogen also. Hydrogen, there are 2 atoms on the left, that is in the reactant side, and 12 atoms in the right, that is product side. And oxygen also, 2 from carbon dioxide plus 1 from water, and that means 3 on the reactant side, and in the product side there are 6 plus 2, 8 oxygen atoms. So basically you see, right, all the elements, all the atoms are unequal. So first let us try to balance the carbon atoms. So suppose we put 6 in front of the carbon dioxide here, we get 6 carbon atoms on the left and 6 carbon atoms on the right. So that gets balanced. Now let's check hydrogen atoms. There are 2 hydrogen atoms in the left hand side and 12 on the right hand side. So 12 divided by 2, 6. So if we put 6 in front of the hydrogen and water, how does it change the number of hydrogen atoms? It becomes 12, right? 6 2s are 12. So we see here that the carbon and hydrogen atoms have been balanced. Now what is remaining is the oxygen atom. So oxygen, you can see it has turned to 18 atoms on the reactant side. After we made the changes, it's turned to 12 in carbon dioxide and 6 in hydrogen. So 18 atoms on the left hand side, and in the product side it's 6 plus 2, 8, right? So how do we change this? Obviously it's less in the product side. So suppose we put a 6 in front of the oxygen on the product side, it changes into 18. So now all the atoms of elements on either sides have become balanced. So this is your final equation that you need to understand and remember. This is a frequently asked question. Actually, there's a mistake here. It's not supposed to be just water. It's supposed to be chlorophyll. One moment, I'll just get back. Yes, so earlier there was water written. There's no need to write water because we have already mentioned that in the chemical equation. What needs to be written in this equation is chlorophyll, right? So sunlight and chlorophyll are main components of photosynthesis other than carbon dioxide and water. Yeah, so this is the final equation. Yes, this is the final equation for photosynthesis. So this is the chemical equation for photosynthesis and it's a frequently asked question. So what are the steps in photosynthesis? Light energy is absorbed by chlorophyll pigments. Then this light energy is converted to chemical energy and the water molecules get split into hydrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide gets reduced to carbohydrates. Now this need not be the order in which photosynthesis occurs in all plants. That means this is an interchangeable order. Now let's take the special case of desert plants, right? So desert plants as in not just cactus, you can have some other common examples as well, like pineapple, agave, aloe vera. So all these are desert plants, okay? Most plants keep their stomata open during the day so that they can take in carbon dioxide easily and in the presence of sunlight, they can carry out photosynthesis, right? Now, desert plants can't afford to do that because the function of stomata is not just gaseous exchange, but also it plays a role in transpiration, that is the loss of water. So, in tropical conditions or in usual conditions, most plants, they don't have to put up with scarcity of water. So they can afford to lose some water through transpiration during daytime. That's why they keep their stomata open in the morning itself, in the daytime, and they can just carry out photosynthesis immediately. Whereas in desert plants, there is an adaptation that they have taken up so as to survive in arid conditions where water level is too low. What they do is they keep the stomata open at night. So there is very, very less chances of transpiration happening in night when the climate is relatively cool. So evaporation won't happen that easily, or it's negligible, right? So because their stomata are open, they can take in carbon dioxide at night. Okay, gaseous carbon dioxide is taken up at night and it's converted into an intermediate called malate and stored inside the vacuole of these mesophyll cells, right? Now it waits for daytime to come. Why can't it carry out photosynthesis then itself? Because photosynthesis needs sunlight, right? Photosynthesis. So without sunlight, it cannot occur. That's why that carbon dioxide, it converts into an intermediate and waits for the daytime to come. So once it's daytime, the light energy from sunlight is used. It acts upon this intermediate called malate and releases carbon dioxide. So again, gaseous carbon dioxide is released and made available for the plant. And now in the presence of sunlight, it can carry out photosynthesis as usual, right? So this is a special case of desert plants where the previous order that we said, absorption of light energy, splitting up of water molecule and conversion into chemical energy, that order is interchanged in this because absorption of light energy in desert plants comes afterwards. Alright, so that's it for today. In the next lesson, we're going to be exploring some exciting topics and we're going to be witnessing some exciting activities.